What's good, everybody? I'm Gimbal, and this is a series I call Arc Flash, where we go over the manga or an anime story arc, and we go in detail and all the nooks and the crannies and all things like that. This episode, I'm going to cover Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba's first story arc titled Final Selection. Now, this covers the manga's first 9 chapters, and it covers the first 5 episodes of the anime. The very first page of the series, we see our main protagonist Tanjiro and a flash forward scene carrying his sister Nezuko over his shoulders. She is out cold. She is bloody. He is thinking to himself, how did this happen? He is telling his sister that he will save her. Tanjiro is a great big brother. Each of his younger siblings look up to him, especially after the father not being present after his passing. Even their mother relies on him a bit, so to make ends meet, he's about to go into town and start selling coal to the villagers. Tanjiro is well known in his village, having a good head on his shoulders and also being the resident sniffer guy, right? He's like Remy from Ratatouille, being able to smell, apples, to smell oranges, ginger snaps, what have you. It can be all kinds of different things and wrapped up in all one package, but he's able to be distinct about each individual thing. Now, up comes Joe Blow asking Tanjiro to help prove his innocence after breaking a shopkeeper's vase. Tanjiro smells it, and instantly he's able to see that it is a cat smell on it, not his. So this just helps this guy. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, how relevant is Tanjiro's power of scent or smell to the whole series? And I'm telling you, just hold on tight. It is such a big deal. It's getting late and Tanjiro is headed back home until he is stopped by old man Saburo, who tells him that it's getting dark and it's getting dangerous. Tanjiro reassures him, saying, I can smell danger a mile away. Old man Saburo again says, look, there are demons that roam these woods. Just come hang out with me and we'll kick it for a night and then just go back home the next day. Tanjiro says, okay. Now, the next morning, he heads back home. He sees 2 bodies on top of each other. He realizes that it's his family. Now, he's running to these 2 bodies until he looks to the left and he sees his entire family slaughtered inside of his house. It's a gruesome scene. Now, we're going to go back to the beginning of this chapter where we saw Tanjiro carrying Nezuko over his shoulders in the snow because she was the only one of his family that was still warm and still kind of breathing. On this mountain, it is so cold it is nearly impossible to breathe because the cold air hitting your lungs and it makes them feel like they're crystallizing. But Tanjiro is trying to persevere because he wants to bring his sister to a doctor because he doesn't realize what is about to happen. Next thing you know, Nezuko's head tilts back, her eyes become white like the Undertaker, and her teeth become sharp like fangs. This scares Tanjiro to the point where he can't find his footing, and her and him fall a good 10-15 feet in the snow. Tanjiro is happy that the snow broke his fall. He wants to make sure that his sister is okay, and he looks over and she's kind of standing very creepily already on her feet. Tanjiro runs over to his sister to make sure that she's okay, only to be attacked by her. So instinctively, he uses the handle of the hatchet that he has to catch her teeth so that she can't eat him. He starts to remember old man Saburo's warning about the demons and now realizes that his only remaining member of his family has now turned into a demon. He smells that she reeks of blood and death, but that there's another scent as well besides hers. Still struggling, Tanjiro realizes that his sister is getting bigger, she's getting stronger, and he starts to feel a little guilt about staying at old man Saburo's the night prior, and that if he wouldn't have done that, he would have been home to maybe prevent his sister from becoming a demon and prevent his family from getting killed. He nearly begs Nezuko to fight this urge, to snap out of it. He doesn't want to believe his sister is a demon. Nezuko nearly snaps out of it, and she herself starts crying. Up until the next panel, we see something charging them. Mid-slice, Tanjiro rolls over, and the blade cuts his ponytail. He looks up to see a man who has a katana, and engraved near the hilt it says, Destroyer of Demons. This man asks Tanjiro, why are you protecting this demon? For him to reply, this is my sister, and he's holding her back from attacking this man. This man wasn't fazed at all because in the blink of an eye, Tanjiro looks and Nezuko's not in his hands anymore. She's in the hands of this man while he has a blade ready to go. He tells Tanjiro that his job is to kill a demon, and he is about to do it to Nezuko by way of decap. Tanjiro begs the man to let her go because he believes that she's not the one responsible for killing the family, that he smelt something else, and what that scent is has to be the person responsible for his family's death. The man says again that she is a demon and that she needs to be killed now before she hurts anyone. Tanjiro pleads again, please let her go. I can try to cure her of her demon transformation. The man tells Tanjiro that once you go demon, you can't go back. And Tanjiro begs again, please let her go. She's my sister and she's all I have left. You think the man would have sympathy for Tanjiro in this case, but he is harsh with his words and says, never let your guard down in front of an enemy. And if you thought groveling would work, your family would be alive. Now, even though this man is being harsh with his words towards Tanjiro, you can see in his thoughts that he is having feelings of guilt, that if he would have been there a day sooner, he would have been able to prevent Nezuko's demon transformation and their family's death. Now, even after having thoughts of guilt, he still stabs Nezuko in the chest with his blade, to which Tanjiro chucks a rock and has his hatchet in hand and starts charging towards this man. The man blocks the first rock with the hilt of his sword until he sees Tanjiro had thrown another one, to which he dodges and it hits the tree behind him. The man thinks to himself how foolish it is for Tanjiro to attack him head on. He uses the bottom of his sword to hit Tanjiro in the back and knocks him out cold. Nezuko sees this happen. The man notices that Tanjiro's hatchet is not in his hands anymore until he looks up to see it spinning towards him. He moves his head for the hatchet to hit the tree behind him, and even though he had thought it was foolish, he kind of admires Tanjiro's plan of attack just to try and save his sister. In the moment of the man piecing Tanjiro's attack together, Nezuko breaks free of his grasp and runs to her brother. Now, the man thinks because she's a demon that she is going to eat him, but to his shock, she is standing guard over him. Nezuko then charges towards the man for him to do the same thing he did to Tanjiro and just knock her out. In a dream state, Tanjiro sees his mother apologizing for leaving him and Nezuko alone, and she asks him, please watch over your sister. Tanjiro wakes up and he is grabbing Nezuko's kimono, and he looks up to see that the man is still there. He tells Tanjiro to seek a man named Sakonji Orokadaki at Mount Sagiri and tell him that Giyu Tomioka sent him. And before vanishing, his last words to Tanjiro are, don't let your sister come in contact with sunlight. The siblings head back home, and sadly they have to bury their family. But Tanjiro prays over them, he grabs the sister's hands and says, let's go. The siblings press onward to Mount Sagiri, even after being warned by locals that people disappear there. With it being night now, Nezuko is out of her basket, walking hand in hand with her brother, until Tanjiro sees a way station in the distance with a light on. He smells blood, and they rush to it, only to open the door to see a demon feasting on two humans. The demon is instantly territorial and aggressive, and it charges Tanjiro, and Tanjiro instinctively uses the blade of his hatchet to try and cut the neck of the demon. And the demon laughed at this attack because he is able to heal that neck wound in seconds. But he gets angry that Tanjiro even wanted to attack because he views this as food, so the demon charges and takes down Tanjiro a second time. Choking him, he tells Tanjiro he won't get a second time to attack and he's going to break his neck. Then out of nowhere, Nezuko punt kicks this demon's head clean off of its body, sending the head to a tree. Now this surprises both of them, and Tanjiro let his guard down, seeing the head fly because the body is still trying to attack him. The bodiless head of the demon that hit the tree is talking, and he realizes that Tanjiro is human and Nezuko is a demon. Tanjiro goes to attack the head again, and its mouth clenches on the blade of the hatchet and grows little arms and starts wrapping it around the handle. Tanjiro's next plan of attack is to just headbutt the bejesus out of this demon, and even the demon thinks, man, this guy's head is hard. This stuns the demon, so Tanjiro uses the hatchet to pin down into the tree the head and the arms, and now the hair got wrapped up in it to where the demon can't even move. Now with the head being pinned against the tree, Tanjiro runs to Nezuko's aid because she's being attacked by the headless body. Tanjiro tackles the demon off the cliff, but Nezuko catches her brother so he doesn't fall. Whenever the body of the demon hits the ground, It knocks out the head because, of course, they're the same being. Tanjiro grabs his knife and he's about to go for the killing blow on the demon's head until he's stopped by a man wearing a Tengu mask. Lord Sakonji Urokodaki receives a crow from Giyu Tomioka, letting him know that Tanjiro and Nezuko will be seeking him and to teach Tanjiro and his old traditions. We cut back to Tanjiro asking how to finish off this demon. He thinks maybe he can use a rock, but that would be too much pain to the demon. It would take too many hits. It's almost inhumane. It is now revealed that the old man that stopped Tanjiro from killing the demon is Urokodaki, and he is thinking that Tanjiro's kindness is what will prevent him from taking decisive action. He even thinks to tell Giyu that Tanjiro is useless. Spending too much time trying to make a decision, the demon wakes up and sunlight hits it, eviscerating it. Tanjiro sees this and realizes what's at stake and why Nezuko hates sunlight. Urokodaki respectfully buries and prays for the demon's victims. He then introduces himself to Tanjiro. Tanjiro does the same. Urokodaki asks Tanjiro, "What are you going to do when your sister tries to eat someone?" Tanjiro takes too long to respond, and he just slaps Tanjiro across the face. Urokodaki grills Tanjiro for being too kind and taking too long to finish off this demon. He even digs deeper and tells Tanjiro that if your sister ever kills someone, you are to do two things: kill your sister and then kill yourself for letting it happen. Urokodaki asks Tanjiro, "Do you understand what I'm saying?" To which Tanjiro screams yes, he gets it now. He understands what's at stake. Urokodaki says that he will test Tanjiro. "Grab your sister and let's go." Urokodaki is hauling cheeks. Tanjiro can't even catch up and he can't even hear this old man's feet. Tanjiro thinks to tell his sister that the road ahead is going to be rough, and he apologizes because he knows that the family has only known hardship. He recalls a memory of Nezuko asking her, "Why don't you just get a new kimono?" because she's stitching her current one, and she says, "Why use that money when I can just use it for the helpless children?" They arrive at Urokodaki's house. Tanjiro, out of breath, says, "Okay, did I pass?" Urokodaki says, "The test is now. Climb the mountain." Tanjiro is dizzy and tired, but Urokodaki says, "I'm not going to wait for you a whole day for you to come back." Even with the thick fog, Tanjiro thinks that his nose is what's going to save him once again, until he hits a tripwire that throws a barrage of rocks that knock him to where he falls into a covered pit. He understands that the test is to survive these traps, and as soon as he gets out of that pit, boom, another tripwire, giant log, wham in the back. Being trapped for a third time, he realizes that he will not make it back in time to Nezuko and Urokodaki if he keeps getting hit by these traps. And even worse, the higher he goes on the mountain, the thinner the air. Something I like about Tanjiro, and you can relate this to 100 more heroes, is that he analyzes and realizes how difficult what's going on really is. But he instantly contradicts it with, "But I can turn it to a positive, and I can get out of the situation if I just work hard and persevere." He's still getting hit by these traps, but he starts to realize, if I can't smell the traps, I can smell the person that set the traps. Although knowing where the traps are, it doesn't mean that he can dodge them all. We cut back to Nezuko sleeping in Urokodaki's house and him putting a blanket over her until he hears a noise close to his front door. It's Tanjiro that opens a door, and in each breath he says, "I made it back." And Urokodaki replies with, "Tanjiro Kamido, I will take you as my student." Let's backtrack a little bit, okay? The Demon Slayer Corps is not officially recognized by the government. They've been around since the old days, and of course, as it implies, they help kill demons to give more peaceful lives to humans. Now, something mysterious about the Demon Slayer Corps is that even though they've been around for so long, it is still shrouded in mystery who their leader is. Now, let's go to demons, okay? They only eat humans. No one knows where they came from. They can only be killed by a certain type of blade. You can't just lop off their head and they're just done, as you can see in the fight with Tanjiro and Nezuko, cutting off the head that ended up growing arms and all that. It has to be by a certain blade called a Nichirin blade. We cut to Urokodaki that's telling Tanjiro that the only way to be an official Demon Slayer Corps member is that you have to pass final selection. But he also reassures Tanjiro that he is the only one that can let him go take that test. So he's going to have to prove himself. With Nezuko being in a hibernation state, Tanjiro starts a journal logging each day's activities so he can catch her up whenever she wakes up. Now, of course, the way he has to prove himself to Urokodaki to do final selection is he has to still traverse this mountain and its deadly traps. He is still focusing on the traps sent or who set them, and he is still getting hit by them. He's getting a little bit better, but he realizes that it's not just rocks anymore. It's not just a log. It's like arrows, it's spears, it's spikes, and he is just going crazy. Knowing that demon slayers all carry katanas, he starts using a katana on this mountain challenge, but he starts to realize that it is making these traps harder. He starts getting caught easily. Another way Tanjiro is training, besides just the mountain and its traps, is he is using this katana. He's getting used to the weight of it. And Urokodaki tells him that a blade of this kind of katana is so easy to break in battle that it has to be the perfect balance of direction and of force applied. Even worse to that, Urokodaki tells Tanjiro, if you break your blade, I will break you. This is where we're going to get more into the montage part of this training. We're covering a lot of time in such a short amount of time to us as a viewer or a reader, to where now Tanjiro is learning from Urokodaki. He realizes that Urokodaki, for being so old, he is still so strong and agile. He is also learning to do some forms. We'll come to that later, and also breathing techniques. That's something else we'll revisit. 6 months of training have gone by. Tanjiro is still scared because Nezuko hasn't woken up. Urokodaki has called a doctor who has said nothing's wrong with her. Everything is great. He thinks that he doesn't want to wake up one day and his sister is just gone. Remember, this is all he has left. He still trains as hard as he can. He's still working up to that Rocky moment. Now we go up to a whole year of training, and Urokodaki tells Tanjiro, I have nothing left to teach you. But the only way you can go to final selection is if you slice this boulder in half. And this thing is massive, back to the days of medieval catapult type stuff. This thing is huge. You can't cut this with a regular blade. And of course Tanjiro is in disbelief. How can you cut this giant boulder with such a small blade? Wouldn't you break it? And then Urokodaki's gonna break me. Urokodaki says again, this is your last test before final selection. Tanjiro uses everything he's learned, all the blade skills, all the agility, all the forms, all the breathing techniques, and to no avail. It's not enough to crack the rock, but Tanjiro knows he has to do more because he thinks, if I can't split this boulder and I can't be in final selection and then I can't be a demon slayer, Nezuko, my sister, will die. And the only thing he knows how to do next is just slam that big old head onto that rock. And then after he does that, he hears silence. He looks up and it's a man with a fox mask and a katana. Tanjiro doesn't know where this guy came from. He didn't hear him. He didn't see him. The guy looks at him and says, only men suffer in silence, not little boys. The man attacks Tanjiro, telling him that he's too slow and that he will never be a demon slayer. Tanjiro asks the man, where did you come from? The man says, what are you doing? Tanjiro replies, I'm training. He says, no, dude, get off your cheeks and attack me right now. Tanjiro says, I have a real sword and you have a wooden sword. I don't want to hurt you. The man just starts dying laughing. And he says, I've already split a boulder. You have nothing to worry about. You're not going to harm me. The man tells Tanjiro, even though you know all of Urokodaki's training about the forms, the breathing techniques, all this and all that, you don't know how to use it. Tanjiro says, man, I have been trying to. I'm still training. And he says, don't just try. You need to do. Tanjiro attacks with all he's got, only to get hit by the man's wooden sword, and now he's just out cold. Now we see a younger girl walk up behind the fox masked man, and he tells her, it's up to you now. I can't do anything with this guy. She wakes up Tanjiro, asking if he's all right, for him to only wake up and just compliment that fox masked guy's attack. But then he asks the girl what her name is, and she says, Makamo, and she says that the guy's name is Sabito. Makamo helps Tanjiro fix his forms, helps correct his stances, and he, of course, is starting to own these abilities. He asks, "Why are you helping me do this?" And she just dodges the question. One thing she does tell Tanjiro is that her and the Sabito guy are orphans. They're not siblings, but they were taken under Urukadaki's wing and trained by him. She tells Tanjiro that this total concentration breathing form will accelerate his heartbeat, will increase his blood flow, make his body hotter. But the reason for these forms is that it will combat and contradict a demon's strength. It's stronger than an ordinary human. Another 6 months go by. So this is a year and a half that Tanjiro has been training up in the mountain, all these forms, months alone with Sabito and Makamo, trying to split this boulder. And nearly every day for those 6 months, he's been training with Sabito, just sparring. But today in particular, Sabito didn't bring a wooden sword, he brought a real one. Tanjiro is as competent as he's ever been. He draws his sword, he goes to attack Sabito, and he slices the mask right in half. But then Makimo and Sabito disappear, and he realizes that he didn't cut Sabito's mask. He cut the boulder right in half. With Makimo's training, Tanjiro has been able to create what's called an opening thread using his senses of scent and smell. He creates a thread from the tip of the blade to where he's about to cut. Urokadaki tells Tanjiro that he had no intention of letting him go to final selection, and he had no intention of letting him train because he didn't really want any more kids to die that were under his wing. Now, this is the first time that we actually see Urokadaki be a little bit more emotional because he breaks a little bit and he hugs Tanjiro, tells him how amazing of a child he is, and he says, "Come back from final selection because me and your sister are waiting for you." Before leaving, Urokadaki gives Tanjiro a warding mask, and it is a fox mask similar to Sabito and Makimo, and as it implies, it is supposed to ward off evil and demons and just all kinds of negative things. And as Tanjiro is leaving, he is waving to Urokadaki and he says, "Please tell Sabito and Makimo thank you." Urokadaki is dumbstruck because he says, how does he know those two dead kids? Now we're at Mount Fujikasane where final selection is taking place. And Tanjiro sees these stairs and he sees these white flowers and he's like, wow, this is so weird that they're growing here. And we're going to come back to that in a second. He keeps going up the stairs and he sees nobody that he's ever seen before, and he sees a lot of other challengers of final selection. And on the stage, we see two twins. They both, of course, are very similar, but the only thing different is that one has white hair, one has black hair. Their eyes are kind of eerie looking, but you can see that they don't really have any malintent. They're kind of breaking down what final selection is. They say that the mountain is full of demons, and the way that they are held there is by that white flower that Tanjiro saw on the stairs earlier. The twins now say that the only way to pass final selection is by surviving for 7 days. Nearly right off the bat of final selection, Tanjiro encounters two demons, both that are charging him, but he is trying to ask them, hey, how can I cure my sister? But of course he can't get it out because they are just trying to kill and eat him. He starts up total concentration breathing. He sees the threat on these two demons, and fourth form, striking tide. After killing these two demons nearly seamlessly, Tanjiro realizes that all of his training, that almost 2 years of training, has paid off, and that whenever he beheads these demons with the Nichirin sword, he sees not only that they die, but their bones and everything just crumbles away like dust, like how we saw the demon when the sunlight hit. It's almost the same kind of process when they die. Then we see Tanjiro smell something awful, and he hears another challenger of final selection, seeming like they're running from something huge. Now, when you see this demon, this is why the chapter is called Mountain of Hands, because it is literally a giant, fat, hulking demon that has hundreds of arms and hands, just and a little head. It's disgusting. Now, with that being said, the demon is able to take multiple arms and compile them to make a bigger, longer arm. And of course, Tanjiro's instinct is to help this guy because the demon goes to compile those arms and grab that dude that is running away. Tanjiro is not powerless anymore with all of his training. So what he does to help protect this kid that just got grabbed by the demon is one of the breathing forms, water breathing form 2, water wheel. And with that move, he cuts the giant arm off of this demon, and the demon looks at Tanjiro. His attention's on Tanjiro now, and he sees that he has the same mask, the fox mask. And the demon acknowledges that he's seen that mask before, and he says, oh, another one of my dear fox masks has come to see me. We see Makimo and Sabito near where the boulder was cut, and she asks him, does he think that Tanjiro is going to survive final selection? Sabito says, I'm unsure, but the more effort, the better. The demon asks Tanjiro, who is the current emperor? And Tanjiro and the kid that he just saved are like, what are you talking about? And come to find out that the demon had been there for 47 years, and he was put there by Urokadaki. His trophies are basically Urokadaki's apprentices. That is what he lives for now. And he tells Tanjiro that he's going to be number 14. So he's already gone through 13 of these other kids. And Tanjiro is like, I can't let you, I'm not going to go down without a fight. Still in disbelief, Tanjiro is saying, there is no way that you could still be here that long. The demon says, I have eaten 50 challengers over the years. That is explaining why he is so big and so strong. Because Tanjiro recalls Urokadaki saying, you amount a demon's strength based on how many humans he's eaten. So it all makes sense. The demon says out of the 13 other Urokadaki students that he's eaten, he can only remember 2. And almost to a T, he describes Sabito and Makimo. And of course, this scares Tanjiro because they're the ones that trained him. The demon then goes into detail about how he ate them, and this angers Tanjiro because he goes to charge and he cuts off many arms, but they keep growing back because, as you remember, demons can heal like that. Tanjiro smells something weird, and it's the demon had used his arms to do an under attack, and he jumps up super high. The demon is in disbelief, saying, how could he know that I was going to attack? I'll try and attack him in the air. The demon goes to attack Tanjiro in the air, but he's freaking out because he's running out of arms to kind of compile and use for big attacks. Tanjiro is cutting through him like butter. He remembers Sabito wasn't even able to make it this far. The demon goes for a final all-out attack, but it's too late for him because Tanjiro smells the opening thread to his neck. We cut back to Makimo and Sabito, and she asks him, does he have a chance against that big demon that killed us? Its neck is so tough. And Sabito admits, I don't know, but he was able to cut through the biggest boulder of all of us. And then the last thing we see of the chapter is Tanjiro just going right through it. The next chapter begins with the demon seeing Tanjiro about to go for the killing blow and remembers whenever he was first a demon and blends Tanjiro's killing blow with Urokadaki's killing blow. Its head being cut, it still is able to see its body crumbling away, and it curses Tanjiro for killing it. The demon is afraid to close its eyes because it doesn't want the last thing it sees to be Tanjiro, a demon slayer who had finally slayed him. And he even starts having his life flash before his eyes to where he was really sad because the first person that he ate was actually his brother when he first turned into a demon. Tanjiro can smell many things, but this time he smells sadness emanating from the demon. And he actually, before the whole body crumbles away, he grabs its hands and he prays to God that when it is reborn, it is not going to be a demon. He thinks to put the memory of Makimo and Sabito to rest now that he has slayed the demon that killed them. 7 days later, final selection is done, but he only sees 3 other challengers besides him that still made it. The 2 twin hosts show back up, and they congratulate Tanjiro and the 3 others. Tanjiro, of course, notices that there were a total of 20, if not more, that started final selection. He's sad that he doesn't even see the kid that he saved with the Mountain of Hands demon. We see the girl who passed final selection is playing with a butterfly. She's in her own world. We see another kid who is freaking out, saying that even though he didn't die, he's still going to die. And then we see another guy who doesn't care about passing. He just wants the katana that he is promised, the Nichiren sword, to slay demons. The twin hosts disregard what the kid with the scar on his face said. They say, we're going to give you guys your Demon Slayer uniforms now that you pass final selection. Then they go through a list of the 10 ranks there are of Demon Slayer and how the 4 that passed are actually all the way at the bottom. The Scarface guy asks again, where is my katana? And the twin hosts dodge the question again. They tell the 4 that they have to first choose an ore for their Nichiren sword, but it takes up to 2 weeks for the sword to be complete. The hosts then say, not only will we give you uniforms and you get to choose an ore for your sword, but we're going to give you a crow. And this is used to basically communicate, say that there are missions or just the way that you communicate with other demon slayers. We see a giant flock of crows look like they're all disturbed, but one lands on Tanjiro, another lands on the girl challenger, another lands on the very grim, I'm gonna die one, but it's a sparrow. But the other dude with the scar on his face is like, I don't care about a crow, I want my sword now. And he grabs one of the twin hosts by the hair. Of course, Tanjiro, being the hero that he is, he says, let go of her now or I will break your arm. And the guy's like, yeah, right. Tanjiro goes to edge closer and the guy's like, ow. And he is in disbelief because he didn't think Tanjiro had it in him. The twin hosts are not fazed by the violence that just occurred because they say, are you done? Because you can choose the ore for your katana and be on your way and out of our hair. The final thing that we see of this chapter is a serene, secluded dojo. And we see the back of a man that is kind of at peace and he's on his knees kind of just zenning out. And he receives the message from a crow saying that there were actually 5 challengers that passed final selection. And he is nearly ecstatic and he wonders what kind of swordsman his new disciples will be. This is the final chapter of the arc and it is called Welcome Back. And of course, the first thing you see is Tanjiro. He is crawling but standing up. He is using the stick that he has, the staff that he has, to just slowly keep edging himself on the way back to Urokodaki. He's clawing his way back home. He's also thinking as he's walking back that, why wasn't I able to talk to these demons? Why did they want to attack me? It still doesn't register to him that demons are only wanting to kill you and eat you. He thinks that they still have some part of humanity with them the same way that Nezuko had, but it is a completely different case. And in his mind, because of that, and he wasn't able to get the information, in his mind, he apologizes to his sister and says that he wished he could have done that because it would have been one step closer to bringing back her humanity. Until he gets back to Urokodaki's house. He sees the house inside at the top of the hill, but the door just shoots off. And you find out that it was just Nezuko kicked it. I don't know what she was doing, but she just drop kicks it, and then she sees her brother and just runs straight for him. Of course, Tanjiro, being beaten and broken from final selection and his body recuperating, he still has so much joy for seeing his sister finally awake because it's been 2 years. And so he tries to run towards her as well to meet her halfway, but his feet can't catch up and he just plummets and falls. But Nezuko catches him and he just starts bawling, crying. We once again see Urokodaki in an emotional, sad state, but in a good way, happy sad, because he is crying. You can see tears flowing behind his mask as he hugs them both. He's happy that Tanjiro, his final disciple, had basically finished what all of his other ones weren't able to finish. 15 days passed. Tanjiro has recouped and healed from final selection, and he's still hanging out at Urokodaki's house. But he looks outside and he sees a man wearing a samurai hat, and he has little wind chimes hanging, and he's puzzled as who is this guy because he can't really see his face. This man walks right up to Tanjiro, almost invading his space, and Tanjiro can't help but just compliment the wind chimes because he's kind of like, who is this guy? Why is he invading my bowl? The man says that his name is Haganezka and that he is the one that forged Tanjiro's Nichiren sword. Tanjiro tries to be kind and invite him inside for some tea, but the guy just drops to his knees outside and starts unraveling the sword. Tanjiro just says, "Come on, man, you want to come inside?" But the guy doesn't care. He's still trying to talk about this sword. Then we cut to Urokodaki, who's actually inside, overhearing everything going on, and he says, as usual, he doesn't listen to what anyone says. So he knows this Hagoneska guy. Tanjiro asks the guy again, "Come on, man, your wrap's going to get dirty, the sword's going to get dirty, just come hang out inside." The guy, I guess, has had enough because he looks up and it startles Tanjiro because it's not his face. He has a mask similar to Urokodaki's Tengu mask. Hagoneska is observing Tanjiro, and he says, "Oh, you're a child of brightness. Look at your hair, the red tint in your hair." Tanjiro says, "I don't know what you're talking about. I'm the son of Tanjiro, and I'm the son of my mother, Kie." Hagoneska says, "It doesn't matter who your parents are, just if they worked with fire, if that was part of their occupation." Tanjiro might have not been able to know his father that well, and he says to Hagoneska, "I don't know what my father's occupation was." To which he replies, "You being a child of brightness, the blade of your sword might turn red." Nichiren swords change color depending on who is holding them. Child of brightness, red. I don't know anything else right now, but there are different colors that you can have depending on who you are. Hagoneska hands Tanjiro his blade, and he draws it out the sheath very slowly and raises it up, and then it turns jet black. And Tanjiro is freaking out because he's saying, "Is black bad? Is the color of my blade bad? You said it was going to be red." And they say it's not bad, it's just not good, basically. Now, even though Hagoneska was very chill whenever he said, "Jet black isn't bad, but it's not good," now he pounces on Tanjiro and he starts pulling on his ears and his cheeks and all that. And he's blaming Tanjiro. "I worked on this for 2 weeks. Why isn't it nice bright red? Why is it black? Blah, blah, blah." Until Tanjiro's crow comes in saying, "Go to a town in the north. There are girls disappearing. This is your first Demon Slayer mission." And the final page of this story arc, we go to this town and we see a guy and a girl walking. And right after the next panel, as he is smiling, she's just not there anymore. And he looks, and all you see is her clothes. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I'm going to try and work on as many more as I can, and I'll see you guys in the next one.